Life accomplishment, got my pro license. Didn't know that there was drugs in the sport. 2014, found out there was drugs in the sport. Didn't believe it. Didn't think you need them. 2015, kept struggling. Finishes not up to par, just losing money. 2016, injured all year. 2017, stuff going on with my mechanic, etc., my life. Decided to get on a program. Best I've ever felt on a dirt bike. Best finishes I've ever done. Best qualifying I've ever done. Didn't last too long. Within 2 months, had a bike malfunction because I was my mechanic. And such is life. Career ended. Hated motorcycles. 2018, 5 surgeries. 2019, renewed my pro license. Self-sabotaged my career, my accomplishments, my persona for letting the secret out of the bag, the dark little secret about drugs and motorcycle racing.
We had a doping culture. Nobody even knew where the moral compass was anymore. It was possible to beat the system. It was the game. That sporting world that we want to put on that paragon of excellence has actually been corrupted by the normal world. There's a very fine line between love and hate. I was never going to dope. I'm not going to become one of those dickheads. I can't beat them or join them. Societal expectations can be overpowering. You have to get to a point where the athletes do not want to take drugs. That's talking about whole cultural changes.
Oh boy, I knew I was going to make more videos on this topic just because I have more things to say, and I got a good response through the community on my last video. It's been good or bad. I first want to tell everyone thank you for all your support, for all the nice gestures, and even the guys that don't agree with what I did and everything. Thank you for joining the conversation, because it is a conversation that we need to have. I mean, we live in an era where we don't want to speak up. We don't want to be that minority that isn't with the main crowd. We want to take the path of least resistance. And I'm telling you now, if you have an opinion, you need to voice it. That's what our country was founded on, and that's what we need to continue to do. It's the only way change happens is when people get in a room and they start debating their views. Whether they may be right or wrong, that's how we get shit done. I know that the first guy through the door gets slaughtered, but the goal is to pave the way for others to follow. And in this video, I'm going to give some examples and solutions to getting drugs out of the sport. And so I want everyone to join the conversation, and I've got a lot of the industry listening. I'm just a nobody that wanted to be a somebody that got a race with the best, and I'm sharing my experiences because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, because their families, their lives, their careers all depend on it. And I've gotten a lot of private messages from current factory riders, team managers, ex-factory riders, media outlets, and it's been a spectrum of, wow, Johnny, you're doing the right thing. Like, keep doing what you're doing with all the adversity that you're probably getting. And then I'm getting to the far left of, shut the f up, keep your mouth shut. So let's just continue the topic. Oh, and the last thing I want to say before I start is, people think I'm doing this for money. Well, I can tell you right here and now, no. I'm just passionate about it. My views have changed, and I want to share my experiences, which I have. And for those of you out there that think it's all about money, my videos make anywhere between $5,000 to $20,000 each, and I make $2.50 by YouTube standard of their CPM. If you guys want to look it up, look it up. But every 1,000 views I make about $2.50, so I'm not getting rich over here. I'm doing it because I'm passionate about it and I want to share and I want to make a difference. With that being said, we do have a drug problem. It's as simple as you invite your friends over, you know you've got cockroaches lying around the house, so you sweep them under the rug, you guys have a nice party, but in your heart of hearts, you know that they're still there, they're just underneath the rug. But to the outside world, to everyone else, everything looks handy dandy. Well, I want to get rid of the cockroaches, okay? So here's my solutions.
There's no PED that's going to help a Supercross rider be 2 seconds faster. Wrong answer.
So my solution is very simple. It's called a blood passport. There's this little thing that all the pros have to do before the season starts. It's called an impact concussion test. And basically it's a test that's designed to test your ability to focus. So if you hit your head really hard, well, what's the first thing to go? You don't want to see bright lights, you don't want to do any math problems, etc., etc. So you have to go take this test, and if you're way off the charts, as far as you fail basically, they won't let you ride. With this blood passport, I think we should do the same thing. We should have a rider get a blood sample right when they go to sign up to get their pro license, and whether or not they have to pay for it, if the sport is broke, which it is, then it's just what a rider has to do.
EPO, blood transfusions, or taking human growth hormone and anabolic steroids.
We've got to get better at testing for these drugs.
As long as they know what the testing procedure is, they'll always be able to beat it.
It can be very hard to check for these PEDs, and that's because the abusers are always several steps ahead of the people who are doing the testing.
$200, you get your blood sample. That way USADA, WADA, whoever needs it, has your hematocrit level and your testosterone level and blah, 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 everything else, all, it's you. That is you. And if you get on the podium or something seems abnormal or you're just randomly tested, they have something to compare it to. So then if you're way off the charts, you're doing something, all right? And then here comes a ban or repercussion or something.
Crime was and what you can offer to prevent it happening. So that's normally how so a drug dealer, they don't want the person who's just smoking it or injecting it, they want the person who gave it to you, bought it off. They don't want that person, they want the person above them. No, we don't do that in sport at the moment. We don't do that usual chain of effects, if you like. Yes, you should always be punished, but it should be relative to the actions, the mistakes you've made.
It's not as easy as it sounds, because you could just easily go, well, I'm going to take EPO before I take my blood sample so that my hematocrit level is, 49 or whatever, it's really high, so that if I ever do get tested, I'm going to be good. Yeah, well, whenever there's a test, there's somebody that's going to be able to beat it. This is just basically to get the conversation started so that we can try to make a difference as a community, industry, etc. Because I just want to see the privateers have a chance at these factory guys. Because the factory guys, they've got all the money in the world, relatively, okay, guys, I'm going a little bit over the top, but they've got the bikes, the setup, the training program, not to mention the program I talked about in my last video. It's hard for somebody coming up to compete, and if you didn't have the bike or quite the training program, but you were super talented, you didn't want to then have to compare or compete against somebody that is abnormally juiced or on gear, as we'd like to call it.
I want people to think about it from a moto standpoint. If you don't think EPO is going to make you sprint faster in a Supercross race, then go out and try to race a 125 against a factory 450.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. You can take the most modified 125 you want, and I guarantee you can go take a 144 if you want.
It might not mean 2 seconds on the first lap. It might not mean 2 seconds on the second lap or the third lap, but you can guarantee, like, at some point in the race when it counts, like, if you have an advantage, like, it's like the analogy to think of it would be like, all right, if your bike starts out at full power and by the end of the race it's like 5 horsepower less,
yep,
but the guy next to you, it's just the same the whole time.
There's a few things that I want to make clear. when it comes to USADA and WADA? Well, WADA is the World Anti-Doping Agency. It was founded right around 1999. It is owned by the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, I believe so, and they're the ones that fund WADA. So they get all their money from the Olympic community. And
the IOC is a propaganda machine. You know, governments want it because it's a feel-good to their country, to their voters, to the people that keep them in power. And I mean, I know stories of what the IOC are like, purely ethical level. You see what IOC does to cities and countries with their Olympics. They barely leave legacies. Their recent track record is horrific. What they did in Athens, what they've done in Brazil and Rio. They go in, they're strong words, but they pillage the local resources, exploit them, and then leave them there to rot.
They do get some outside money, but the IOC will match. And the research that I've done, the IOC is giving WADA $30 million. $30 million for the year as far as the budget goes. And they're supposed to test all the athletes around the world on $30 million. Do you think they're not going to buy the most expensive test? Not to mention, when a rider or an athlete gets tested, great. All that means is they received a sample. We have no idea what that sample was tested for. Was it tested for good cholesterol? Was it tested for bad cholesterol? Was it tested for testosterone? So if it comes back and it's clean, that's great. You can easily say to the media, yeah, this is clean. The test is clean. What was he tested for? That's a big misconception that I believe the general public should have the resources to know. I mean, we should be able to, they should release that information to us. And I've also done a little bit of research, and an EPO test, I can't quote me, but it's relatively close to, I've seen anywhere on the internet between $1,000 to $15,000 to get an accurate test on for testing somebody for EPO. You know, that could be completely wrong, so, you know, let me know. But if you have a $30 million budget,
samples were taken.
But does that mean those samples were tested?
That's the million-dollar question that Icarus has exposed to all drug testing whatsoever. Because if you're a promoter, it's easy to say we drug test.
Yeah.
It's a different story to say we drug test and we evaluated the samples. But where a promoter's hands are tied is for HIPAA laws. They can't say what they tested because that's private information.
Yeah.
Then you get into the subject of TUEs, therapeutic use exemptions.
Testing that is rather expensive, you're probably not going to test people a lot. Just saying that there's obvious loopholes in this whole scenario. And then let's go to USADA. All right, so I do believe USADA is a good third party. They get a test, they get a sample, they get a test, whatever they want for. Then they're able to judge. Then they're able to pass or fail whichever athlete they want. But keep in mind, though, all right, that USADA is privately funded by the organization that is using them. So whether that's the UFC or MX Sports or Monster Energy Supercross, they are paying USADA to drug test their riders. So if a rider or an athlete pops and comes back positive, they, as the organization that is funding USADA, get the results. And it's up to them to decide whether or not they want to release those results. So here's another political issue we have. If said rider tested positive, but he's bringing X amount of money in for the sport, the last thing we're gonna do is kick his ass out because he tested positive for EPO or testosterone or a SARM or an estrogen blocker, whatever it may be. Again, there's another little loophole there.
Positive test coming back is now in the hands of, in this case, the USOC, the United States Olympic Committee. Whether anybody that's underneath the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, when your test comes back, it goes to your governing body. Well, the governing body is going, well, if we announce that X runner got popped, well, our funding, because that's how our Olympic programs are funded by the government, well, if we show that look what happened with gymnastics. When it became an absolute debacle, first thing that happened is
Cut the
government funding was
yeah.
gone.
And there's this stigma that you take the super juice, gear, roids, whatever program, and you're all of a sudden this super athlete that can skim the whoops and, you know, quad, blah, 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 lift 400 pounds. It's a very big misconception. There's no such thing as being Steve Rogers, getting doped up on whatever, don't even know in that Marvel movie what they gave him, but then out pops Captain America. It doesn't work like that. I know before I ever got on a program or started taking stuff, I could run a 450 mile and I felt like I was in really, really good shape. All right, all this stuff does is help you recover faster, gives you a little bit more oomph when you need it, and your ability to ride longer, ride harder is just exponentially increased. All right, but you have to still work your ass off. It just enables you to do a larger workload. And unfortunately, this has been going on in the amateurs as well. There's little kids taking stuff, kids on 80s and then 125s, 250Fs. They're taking stuff because they're trying to get ahead. And it would be nice to try to catch this stuff before it has abnormal effects on individuals. Anytime you're messing with your hormones or anything in your body, there's that saying, too much of anything is probably not a good thing.
There are so many downsides to using these PEDs. Now, one that a lot of people know about, roid rage. Using steroids can just completely change your behavior. And then on the other hand, PEDs can make you depressed. They can also give you heart problems. They can give you diabetes. And sometimes athletes, in their pursuit of what they think is going to be their best performance, they don't think about these things, but these side effects can really happen.
All right, whether it's gear or just ice cream in general, like, you know, you'll end up getting diabetes, okay? You know, too much water can kill you if you drink too much. So there's a fine line, and especially under a doctor's supervision, yeah, the chances are very minimal that things are gonna happen. So I wanna say thank you for watching, guys. This was a much shorter video. Let me know if you think that's a viable solution as far as having a blood passport, or if you guys have any other solutions in general. But until next time, this is Johnny Hopper. I do have the Brop t-shirts down below the video if you guys would want one. I am coming out with some new designs. So until next time, this is Johnny Hopper. Brop!
A lot of people talk about lifetime bans for first-time offence, which makes no sense because we don't have that in society at large. And the human condition, the way we learn is by learning from mistakes. And those mistakes often generate regrets, and those regrets prevent those mistakes happening in the future.